So, this week in the UK, we were told that the birth rate had fallen to its lowest rate since 1939, and that's the year when records began. And what really surprised me is that the media and people generally are only just realising how big of a problem this is. And it's also quite funny that early on in the 21st century, we all thought that overpopulation was the big problem facing society, but now it's the opposite. And unfortunately, the brunt of this problem is now going to be forced on the young people in the next few decades. So, why is this actually happening? Well, part of the problem is that people are generally having less sex. In the US, for example, about 28% of adult males said that they hadn't had sex in the past year. And on top of this, about 51% of adults no longer had a long term partner or didn't have one in the first place. And another thing, male sperm counts are decreasing consistently over time. So people who might even want to have children in the first place are actually unable to do so. Economic problems also dissuade those in relationships from actually having children. So it's no surprise that people aren't actually having children in the middle of the current cost of living crisis, since children are one of the largest economic responsibilities that a household could have. And people who are actually having children are finding that childcare costs are also through the roof because it's so hard to find spaces in like childcare facilities, and it's also incredibly expensive to do so. So, what exactly is the problem with the falling birth rates? Well, the average age across the West, especially in Europe, is rising very quickly, and the older you get, the more likely you are to retire, which means that you no longer work and no longer pay income tax. And statistically, you're also more likely to use healthcare services. So, in a country like the UK, which has a healthcare system paid for by taxpayer money, taxes are going to have to go up to continue to pay for it. And as the proportion of the population that doesn't work increases, taxes are going to have to keep rising to stay in check with this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to pay for this healthcare system. And over time, there's going to be a lot less young people than older people. And it's going to mean that the young people that are actually still working are going to have very high tax rates, since they are the smaller proportion of the population, but they're forced to pay taxes to try and keep the whole population afloat. And it basically means that younger people at an age that can work will be earning less money for the time that they spend working. And this will drive young people to have to work longer hours because it's like incredibly expensive to live these days. I mean, it's already hard enough for young people to move out of their own parents' houses. So what possible solutions are there to this? What could young people do about it? Well, the one thing I'd really encourage you to do is to vote in elections. It means that the demographic of young people are the demographic of young people are actually going to become more important to politicians. They would need to secure the support of young people to continue to achieve victory in their own elections. And it would also mean that politicians would have to adapt to the needs of young people. And this would go some way to help solve the problem. It might cause them to implement things like extra childcare support, which would hopefully amend the problem somewhat. But of course, it's going to take a concerted effort to avoid the worst of what's yet to come. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. It would really help the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.